Konnichiwa minna. Hello everybody. Welcome to chapter 2 of magazine issue 2. So, let's get started. So, chapter 2. Spring tours were in full swing. A large group of nearly 100 drifters followed a handsome boy who looked no older than 21. The young man had medium short brown hair, spiked in a soft, feathered sort of way at the top, and longer. Jagged edges hung just below his jawline on the sides. Not a wrinkle was seen on this young man's face. He had a calm composure, but drifted with a friendly confidence. His hooded, pinkish-purple cape flew gently behind him in the breeze, the iris of his eyes crystal white. Underneath his unfastened cloak, he sported a pair of fitted black pants, bandage-like shoes, a butler cuisse top, and lots of long blue ribbons to tie it off. But what was perhaps the most striking about his appearance was the white rose glowing in front of his neck. The flower petals caressed the boy's skin and shielded it with leaves as a part of him. He led his guest from the edge of one of Eventide's massive forests, deep beneath the burgeoning treetops. He flew at a brisk pace and didn't slow down until someone addressed him. "Mr. Oliver Rose," asked a girl near him, "what is this place called?" "Please call me Ollie," replied the white-eyed drifter, holding up a hand. "And this place is called a forest." A few people throughout the pack snickered, but their friends gave them a quick nudge as a reminder that they were laughing at the newest guild leader, Oliver. Oh, Oliver chuckled too. "Just kidding. I know what you meant. But in all honesty, it doesn't have a name yet. Partly because we've only recently settled nearby and haven't thought of a name yet. But truthfully." The group watched Ollie slowly spin around as they continued forward, taking in the full view of the colossal trees. Eventide has a will of its own, and I don't know how much it would appreciate us naming its body parts. What got him stares from the crowd? I mean, how would you like it if it looked at you and started calling your arm or leg something else?" he asked, painting at a large hairy man, like Wildwood Expanse. More bursting and laughing. The girl who posed the question shrunk back into the crowd, embarrassed. The heavy-set man looked bewildered into the forest, but not too fast so that the crowd could continue at a loose follow. He knew that the group with him today was comprised of all ages, kids, adults, and even some elderly. Within moments, the group had formed up a follow the leader line and snaked through the forest. With each passing minute, the trees grew larger and taller. Pretty soon, started changing colors. There were so many kinds, all growing closer and closer together as the light swarms of fireflies and ethereal light emanating from the surrounding plants and trees. Oliver glanced over his shoulder, often to make sure he hadn't lost anyone, and smiled contentedly to himself as they reached their destination. The forest broke out into multiple sections, the groves and grottos, in every direction at the central dip of the forest floor. that that was as wide as the canyon. Before them laid an entire city built into trees, sprawling with humans and creatures alike. The city was strangely futuristic, but not all modern spires and townhouses jutted out from the skyscraper trees, while wooden houses and odd-shaped cabins sat nestled into the branches, slowly pulsing with colorful nebula. More castle-like structures and penthouses hung upside down from the canopy-covered sky, and drifters, cloaked in earthly toned, bruised themselves with work. Living trees, and some with faces and some without, walked on their many roots, while others stood proudly guarding the edges of the city. The guests who first arrived, just behind Ollie, were standing in awe by the time the rest caught up to take in sight. "Welcome to Treeforge Complex," said Oliver, cheering as he drifted dramatically over the ledge, where the crowd stood above the city. "This is my home, and it will very, very well become yours too." A whole lot of them instantly burst into whispers and murmurs among themselves, amazed at what they saw. Some drifted cautiously beyond the ledge to get a better look, but none went out past Oliver, who was looking at them, all with the expression of sincere satisfaction. The same one that gave to all of his guild tours on recruitment day. "Does anyone have any questions before we head down to get a better look?" he said. There was a moment of silence, but a deafening blurry of questions from the crowd, all talking over each other. "What makes these trees glow like that? What are they doing? Are all those people Treeforge Guild members down there? How did this place get here? Was it built, or was it found like this? Are the trees summoned, or were they discovered naturally? How long has it all existed? Do the other guilds know about this? Why is it called Treeforge Complex? Didn't you say you don't name places on Eventide? If they're upside down, how do they stay in place?" Oliver threw his arms up again and hushed the crowd. "You see the nebula?" he said, painting at hot spots throughout the forest where the pink, fuchsia, and purple lights glowed brightest. "Nearly everything is made of stardust, but the galaxy stuff is a different story. As we're building this place, we made sure to infuse the trees with nebula so that it remains protected. Out there," he said, gestured towards the way they came. "The thought stream is Eventide's sword. It's not a place meant to be inhabited, which is why no one has been able to get near it, spite what you may have heard. I believe that the thought stream is alive and active, and Eventide will use it to exterminate threats it feels it should not be here. But doesn't Eventide enjoy chaos?" someone asked. Most of the group was still staring out at the beautiful city. "Yes, it loves chaos. Craves it even," confirms Oliver. "But I haven't been here for very long, so I can already tell things are changing in the way that is truly disturbing the planet. Should it ever try to destroy this place, the thought stream will detect the nebula and know not to touch it, since it's merged with the environment itself." "What about tree folk?" said another. "Them?" replied Oliver, waving towards the creatures navigating the landscape. Several giant mushrooms carry wood. Stopped and looked up at them. "Tree folk and mush folk have been here all along. The ones without faces are natural. The rest are forged. The city project is never finished, but they are a great help. And believe me, They are also a force to be reckoned with in battle. Oliver looked around and saw most people's faces, mesmerized before adding, "But enough chit-chat. There will be plenty of time for that. Do you folks say we go down there and say hello?" That got the crowd stirring. Some of the younger drifters pushed and shoved their way in front next to Ollie, anxious to see tree folk up close. Oliver smiled and led the way down a steep slope, the air beneath the guests, ruffling leaves and vines that grew along the cliff as they floated by. Oliver continued to speak up so most of the crowd could be informed. "What do you guys think are the most important ingredients to a healthy forest?" "Water," shouted one. "Good soil," hollered another. "Sunlight," bellowed a third. "All correct," Ollie applauded. "But even Eventide, as we know, things can get a bit extreme." Oliver heard kids laughing and sounds of surprise coming from some adults, and upon glancing back, saw several small hordes of fireflies dancing around them as they went along. He briefly bore his perfectly white smile before continuing. "Sunlight hits the outer forest, but isn't required in here, because of all the other sources of natural bioluminescent light. Not to mention the nebula we bought here. As you can tell, the soil is so good you could barely see it anymore because everything is so overgrown." "Look!" exclaimed a young person. The crowd of drifters rushed toward in excitement and scooped up water to drink from a long-winded stream that had become uncovered along with the forest floor. The water here is healthy too," finished Ollie. Then a skinny mushroom approached the group by the waterside and dropped a lantern it had been carrying to greet them. Lots of oohs and ahs ensured that the crowd as the creature was mobbed by those trying to get a closer look. Oliver smiled as a plume of vapor parted the crowd and gave the mushroom some space. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you Sportheart," said the guild leader. The human-sized mushroom visibly shuddered, then glimmering magical water resumed pouring from the brim of its cap. Its body had lots of holes in it, and the stringy gaps along an eerie yellow light to shine through. "I've personally appointed this little guy to be the beacon of the complex, a sort of mobile lighthouse that can help you get back to whatever you need to be should get lost." "Ollie, why is this place called Treeforge Complex?" asked a drifter toward the back. "Because," said Oliver, "our guild is named Treeforge, and the blueprints drawn up by our cardsmiths were complex as heck. I've heard as a tradition to let the guild leaders name their HQ, but what can I say? I'm not great at everything I do." A handful of people laughed. "Well," said Treeforge leader, turning back to the mushfolk, "are you ready to show them the inner city?" The Heartspore shroom picked up its lantern and nodded. So yeah, guys, that is the end of chapter 2. We meet Oliver Rose, who seems like a very nice guy, and a very nice looking guy, for sure. And everybody's asking all these questions about Treeforge Complex, who built it, things like that. So that's also really, really cool. So definitely leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and let me know what you guys think of chapter 2 below. And I will see you in chapter 3. Matane!